Welcome to the Resource Allocation Decision Tool, Help Video 4.4. My name is Terry Haines, and this video focuses on how I can be confident that my rating of cost effectiveness is correct. In the previous question on the Resource Allocation Decision Tool, we rated the cost effectiveness of the option being considered. Now the Resource Allocation Decision Tool asks you, how certain are you that this judgment of cost effectiveness is correct? Very certain, somewhat certain, or uncertain? One of the first ways to consider your amount of certainty in the estimate you have just made is to look at the cost effectiveness confidence ellipse from the cost effectiveness study that you have been considering. If there is substantial overlap of the 95% confidence ellipse over the maximum acceptable cost effectiveness threshold, then you could be at least only somewhat certain or even uncertain as to whether this intervention is likely to be cost effective, cost neutral, or not cost effective. However, there is more than just confidence ellipses that you can take into account. You can also consider the quality of the evidence that was used to generate the cost effectiveness estimate. There are generally two approaches used to generate this information. One is to use a trial-based economic evaluation, and the second is to look at modelling studies. Unlike intervention studies, there is no established hierarchy between these two types of economic evaluation method. Both have strengths and limitations. Trial-based economic evaluations use cost and consequence data collected at the same time as conducting a randomized controlled trial. The advantages of this is it allows highly detailed collection of cost and consequence data with minimal assumptions being made. The cons, though, are that the generalizability of the economic evaluation may be limited if the randomized controlled trial has tight restrictions, such as the inclusion criteria being used. The cost data from trial-based economic evaluations is often highly skewed, and it's very difficult to find significant differences in cost data without having very large sample sizes involved. So what you commonly get with a trial-based economic evaluation is a situation where the intervention is shown to have superior clinical effects on the health outcome, yet because of the width of standard deviations between the control and intervention groups, you don't get a clear message one way or the other in terms of the costs of the intervention compared to the control. Economic modelling studies, however, use data from previously published work to inform a mathematical model regarding the costs and consequences of an intervention. The advantages of this approach is that a wide range of situations can be modelled. The disadvantages, though, is that the modelling is only as good as the data and assumptions being fed into it. As the old saying goes, garbage in and garbage out. So how do authors deal with these problems? Well, for both trial-based and modelling economic evaluations, authors will vary their assumptions and input data to see if their findings still hold true. This is called a sensitivity analysis. If their findings change, they say that their original finding is sensitive to a particular assumption or valuation they made in their original analysis. Now, when assessing the evidence base for economic evaluations for a particular intervention, it is likely that there will be a very small number of economic evaluations available addressing a particular issue compared to the number of randomized controlled trials. There are checklists available to check the quality of individual economic evaluations. Ideally, you are searching for an economic evaluation with clear findings where the 95% confidence slips is well above or below the cost effectiveness threshold. You're looking for one where the findings are not sensitive to plausible variations in key variables. You are looking for an evaluation based on strong data for the effectiveness of an intervention and credible means for measuring the relevant costs. So, when answering the question in the resource allocation decision tool, you are being asked again for a judgment call on the cost effectiveness of your intervention and your certainty in that estimate of cost effectiveness. Being very certain means that you are quite confident that the effects are true and well supported by well conducted economic evaluations. If not, you might be only somewhat certain, where there is some evidence available, but it might be limited in the amount or quality, or you may be uncertain if there is an absence of evidence or only anecdotal evidence or poorly constructed economic evaluations that you can identify.